heard it said that the queen consort of the Pride Lands, Nala's character, diminishes, seeing how irresponsible in supervising and helping out her daughter Kiara she was, by the time we get to the sequel to Disney's 1994 smash hit, The Lion King. I'm here to say that the problems with her character were there from the start. I know that most Disney sequels have this tendency to deviate from what made the original so admirable, but I'd argue this is one of the only times that Disney's Toon Studios were actually on the mark in terms of consistency. Of course, that still doesn't make it a good move, but we can at least conclude that they weren't responsible for Nala's false heroism in the first film. Well, at least I can come to that conclusion, because I know most, if not all of you, remain unconvinced. If you're nevertheless curious as to why I'm entertaining this game of hot potato, then take a walk with me, starting at the beginning of the conflict. I'm of course not referring to the very beginning, when Nala was just a little cub. She's about as reliable as Simba was at that same age. They didn't know any better, and didn't realize that power isn't to be played with. So Scar's definitely not a mortal uncle. Rather, I'm talking about the moment when she began to hold any agency. And that's when she's matured into a young lioness. You'd think that living under Scar's tyranny, which, by the way, literally ran the place to the ground for that long, would have pushed Nala to orchestrate eventual relocation for her pride, seeing as she was able to successfully escape and find Simba's new home in a beautiful paradise. If Simba managed to stay as healthy as he looked, eating bugs all this time, I don't know how, unless he basically never slept in order to get his daily fill, I don't see why the rest of his pride couldn't join him. Surely they would have found other sources of meat, since Timon and Pumbaa were out of the question, and there was plenty of water and living space for everyone. The film doesn't exactly run on logic or fact. The Pride Lands shouldn't have been as barren as they were by Scar's reign. This is just symbolism. But we nevertheless have to accept it happened. What will be useful to know in light of this is that lions and hyenas essentially hunt the same game. If they live together, it can presumably account for some degree of ecosystem destruction, and will eventually come into conflict with each other. Even though lions can kill hyenas, the latter aren't particularly nutritious for them, and there's only so many to go around on Pride Rock. Therefore, any kind of confrontation with Scar and his lackeys is a waste of time. Hence, a wasted opportunity for Nala. Having Nala assume responsibility would be changing the story. I know this. I understand the film's message. Come to terms with your past and work toward a better future. But just because Simba has a role to play doesn't mean Nala, or really even any of the other Pridelanders, don't. So it irked me when she grilled him for not standing up to Scar. Meanwhile, she very well could have left the others for dead, while she was too busy canoodling with him in the field during the Can You Feel the Love sequence. She could have at least asked to enlist his help in bringing everybody there. Why not give the baddies Pride Rock? It's not as though there was anything else for them to eat anyways. They were so foolishly insistent on staying put. Let them die off, so that the land may one day be habitable again. But no, when they returned home, she not only took a back seat in the final showdown, but also refused to support Simba when Scar made those absurd accusations about how he killed his own father. Nobody was on his side at first, yet they should have been able to piece together right then and there why Simba might have fled in the first place based on Scar's leadership style alone. And logically, who was truly capable of intentionally murdering Mufasa at the time? Are we seriously going to chalk it up to a naive cub who could barely roar and absolutely adored his father? My point being, Nala was already shaping up to be an unfit queen from the get-go. She had no sense of judgment, initiative, or prioritization. Need I remind you that it wasn't even her who convinced Simba to go back. It was Rafiki, the one who, sums up the movie's theme, and to a greater extent, Mufasa's spirit. Sure, she might have gotten him thinking about his turmoil, but he sure wasn't moved by her words the same way. And frankly, I'm not either. Not even the summaries of the Lion Guard episodes have changed my mind, as it doesn't sound like she does much of anything in that show either, other than, once again, telling others what to do while she sits around twiddling her thumbs. I don't even want to think about what the live-action remake might have done to her. If you like the character, more power to you. But a pretty design and somewhat fierce personality don't make up for an underdeveloped hero, as far as I'm concerned.